Okay.
Okay. You know your new camera angle? You look good over there.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the camera, but you're over there, so yeah, it's fine.
Is it fine? I just like looking at you. When I see your eyes, I just melt.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, we're going to give away a mag light tonight.
Right.
And also, I got some other stuff too. I'll announce it from Amsoil. Nice little Amsoil package. And for your
I have a brand new batch of stickers.
Brand new batch of stickers we could give away for. We can give a couple away for if they get the what's it worth amount.
Did
Correct.
Ackerman's envelope go out?
Ackerman's envelope went out.
So he should have received some new stickers.
Yeah, he should have them.
Okay.
But there's something else. What is it? The random share. I still call it random share. The viewer appreciation is Amsoil.
They're getting this, right?
Yeah, that and some other stuff. And stickers for what's it worth. All right?
Yeah.
I got to start the show.
All right.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, Susie, baby.
Okay.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abbate. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. The lovely Sue is with me. Let's get her on camera here. There, look how beautiful she is. How you doing, Suze?
I'm good.
Yeah? What are we giving away tonight? Anything going on?
We are giving away an Amsoil mag light.
Right.
Telescopic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I think we have stickers for probably
For the what's it worth segment?
first segment.
Yeah, we'll do stickers for that. And you know what else I want to tell people too? I'm gonna sweeten up the pie a little bit for the random share giveaway. Along with that mag light, we're going to give away an Amsoil mouse pad. I've got some nice stickers and some koozies as well. All right?
For the viewer appreciation, you mean?
What did I call it this time? Random share giveaway. That's what Jordan named it years ago, and
I renamed it.
All right then. Susie renamed it.
I renamed it,
And you're in charge.
I'm in charge.
All right. Now, where was I? Oh, if you want to donate to the show, and somebody donated $100 last week. I thank them very much. They did it in, I was going to say absentia, which it is kind of absentia. But yeah, there's a link in the show description. You can use PayPal, donate any amount, $5, $10, $10 million. I want to thank the rest of our sponsors: Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Eventco, Sirius Studios, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, and of course, as I just mentioned, Amsoil, the boots on the ground. These folks are great. Sharing the show, buying shirts, donating $50, and getting some really, really cool stuff as well. Al Keith, Karl Word, Alan Huey, Tom Miller, Larry Passman, Stoecker, Geisner, McGregor bought more stuff today. He bought an apron. What else did Tyler McGregor buy? Anything else? Got some stickers from you?
Oh, he bought everything we have.
He's bought everything on the list.
Now
Yeah.
he bought aprons this week.
Sirius Studios, Larry Winter. Thank you and the boys very, very much. I want to speak to you soon about getting some more product on the show, Larry. Get a hold of me, please. Steve Bauer, what a great guy. Here's the thing right here. Great guy. Does a lot of philanthropic work with the Big Air Kids Fair. This is at Loma Linda Hospital. They just had a big jump show. Axel Hodges and a lot of other famous freestyle riders were there in January. Check them out at Big Air Kids Fair. Every Tuesday night at 5:30 Central, Steve Wise has a great show on Facebook, Moto Fellowship with Steve Wise. Check him out every Tuesday at 5:30. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Mention our sponsors. Mention where you're from, what some of your favorite segments of the show may be, and we'll get your name mentioned on the air. Maybe we'll read your question or comment, whatever it may be. Just keep sharing that show, and we appreciate every time you do it. We're not giving away grips tonight, and that's how I just see that, because Paul Standard is going to be away on a little trip, so we're not going to do that. Now, in our next time, try this segment tonight, Roy Vanderveer is back with some really helpful tips on torquing your triple clamps. Do you do that, or you just tighten them right down until the old elbow creaks? Well, listen to what Roy has to say here, and you'll learn a little bit more about that. Enter Roy.
Everybody, I'm Roy Vanderveer, and welcome to this week's edition of Next Time Try This. Today, we're going to talk about the details of attaching your front forks to your bike through your triple clamps, and a few things that are very important to the setup here. I know you might say, hold on, Roy, those are upside down forks. That is not very vintage, but the truth is these are 30 years old and they're on a 40-year-old bike. So this is vintage, and all of these points are very important. I know most of you guys ride new bikes too, so we want to know how to take care of these. Here we go. We're going to start at the top. First with the fork cap. If you've had the forks apart and you put the cap back on, all you have to do is bottom the cap out. Do not put the fork cap on with an air wrench. It's not necessary. Once you put it in the clamp puts a little tension on the fork puts tension on the threads on the cap. Everything stays put nice, safe, and sound, just like it's supposed to be. So then, next step, we got our cap, and it's in a good spot. Then we need the threads in our triple clamp and the threads on the bolts to be in perfect shape. I always run a tap through the triple clamp and a die over the bolts. This stuff's 30 years old. Heaven forbid if somebody over-torqued all this stuff at some point or slightly cross-threaded it, or often the threads are just loaded up with dirt, and that gets everything nice and clean. So we've got our fasteners straight and clean, and then before we run them in, because these fasteners are set to torque, we always want to use a lubricant on the threads. So it's just a drop or two, it doesn't take much. You can use regular motor oil, you can use 4-cycle oil, you can use used oil, or you can use some nice assembly lube like I like to do. It's all fine. So next step, we're going through it fast, is we need to tighten our triple clamps to the specified torque. And in this case, it's 14 foot-pounds on the bottom clamp, 18 foot-pounds on the top. It's always going to be lighter on the bottom because it has a wider clamping area, and they do that because when the lower fork tube slides up into the top tube, if this is over-tightened, it will always cause a bind on the fork. Makes your ride horrible. It's no good. One thing that I wanted to mention, I got ahead of myself, and this is going to make more sense when we get to the end of the video. If you've ever seen these fancy new X-Tree triple clamps, these have a pinch bolt on the front, a pinch on the back, and instead of it being one long clamp, it's two separate straps. Now, just set that aside, and we're going to come back to that. We don't have to worry about that, but what we're doing here is similar to what they're doing there. So let's tighten these to spec. And we got our 14. And then we go back and forth. And we keep going a few times until the bolts don't move anymore. You go, great, we're done. That's it. Actually, there's one more step. And the step that we're going to address is the same thing that those X-Tree triple clamps address. When this clamp bites down on the fork tube, not only does it squeeze it, but the metal drags around the outside diameter of the tube. So that creates lateral tension. And what we want to do is relieve that tension. So with the mallet, we're just going to give it a couple of light taps. You ready? And then we're going to torque it one more time. We're probably going to get 1 or 2 degrees rotation out of this. There it goes. Just a little bit. With that, we've addressed what they address here, which is to get rid of that tension that's stored up in the clamp. Oddly enough, with these clamps, which are available for modern bikes, you can over torque this and it does not cause the fork tube to bind in the outer tube. Now, why in the world you would do that makes no sense to anybody, but there's a lot of technology as progress goes on, in the new stuff. It's good, it's cool, it's really expensive, and the stuff that we've got right here, there's really nothing wrong with it. You take the couple extra steps on setup, and you can achieve the same results as what the other guys are doing by throwing a lot of money at their bike. So I hope those tips help you, and I hope everybody starts using their torque wrench. And most of all, I hope this helps make your next ride a little bit better. See you out there.
Who?
Elizabeth Ramsey.
All right, Roy, great job. I want to thank you for another great segment of Next Time Try This. We will be right back with more Vintage Motocross.
I'm Heikki Mikkola. We will be right back.
That was perfect, Heikki.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and to keep that ride going.
Yeah, Vinco, always running great specials over there. And if you spend $200 or more, you get free priority mailing on orders over $200. That's at Vinco.com. Been a sponsor of our show for over 4.5 years now. Vinco, keep the ride going. In our next segment tonight is What's It Worth? What is it worth? Sponsored by Full Circle Racing. Thank you, Tom McAllister. Before I get started on this, give me 1 second. Number one, I got rid of the troll. She's gone. Okay. When we do viewer appreciation giveaway, or for 3 weeks in a row, we gave away the new Preston Petty mini mutter, we mention your name on the air. Your responsibility after that is to send us your mailing address. Jeff Bailey won some stickers last week. I didn't get your address, Jeff Bailey. I checked my messages. I didn't see it. More importantly, Kim Ketchum. You won yourself a fender. I don't have your address, Kim. Get me your address, please. And anybody else who's watching the show, please remember, when you win, immediately, either right there on the page, and well, not in the comments, otherwise everybody's going to know you're, but you can message us and we'll, just the address, and we'll get you whatever it is that you've won.
I just messaged, yeah.
All right, great. What's it worth? Brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to see Tom McAllister for all your on-road, off-road, dual purpose, whatever it might be. Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. This week's bike on the What's It Worth segment. And this is one of those situations where you got to get me your address. Whoever comes closest without going over will get a couple of Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers. Wow. Check that out. Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers. Susie makes them right here in the house. You tell me how much this bike is worth at the end, okay? 1983 Husqvarna 430WR was acquired by the seller in 2013 and soon thereafter. Furbished with work That included powder coating the frame, replacing the plastic, refreshing the air-cooled 430cc two-stroke single, overhauling the suspension, and more. It was then placed in storage until 2024. The bike is finished in white with blue and yellow graphics. Its features include a 6-speed transmission, a Mikuni carburetor, a blue solo seat, black finished expansion chamber. It's got a skid plate, high mount fenders, Husqvarna Öhlins shocks, a K&N handlebar, 21 front 18-inch rear wire spoke wheels, and it has a side stand as well. The 430WR is now being offered at no reserve in Indiana for off-road use only. It does not have a bill of sale. I went through the pictures pretty closely, and yeah, this is a beautiful rebuild, okay? A beautiful race rebuild, no question about it. The paint was fairly nice on it. If everything checks out, and I'm sure it did about the rebuild and everything else, this really, really looks like a real nice piece, okay? And it is a 430WR, nice for those trail rides up in Michigan or wherever you may be, because there's trails all over America. How much do you think this bike recently sold for? How much? $3,000? $4,000? $4,500? Well, you guys are being generous tonight. This bike sold for $3,950. That happened on February 13th. Wow. Sold for $3,950. $3,950, Susie. If you could tell me who got closest without going over, and they send their address.
Joe Payne got it.
Who?
Joe Payne, right on the bazooka, $3,950.
Bill Payne. Joe Payne. Joe Payne. Read my lips. Send me your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. Compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Susie. $3,950. I want to thank Tom McAllister. Full Circle Racing, CZ, Mako, you name it. Tom makes them for every make and model. Okay, thank you so much, Tom McAllister. We're going to take a little bit of a break right here. We're going to be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A in just a minute. We've got some really great stuff coming up from our new content sponsor, creator, Roger Neff and Brap Suspension. We've got stuff from the Tim Boone video we got coming up too, Susie. Remember we had that bike here the other day?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was that thing sweet.
Yeah.
You guys sit tight. We'll be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A, a lot more videos, a lot more information. Stand by.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
In the Here's the Problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. We take a look at a couple of questions. Some of them are on a little bit of a personal basis, which I don't mind really that much. So again, Here's the Problem, brought to you by Motion Pro. And you know what I want to say about that too? Don't forget Motion Pro. Yes, we know them for cables and for tools. They make a lot of other really nice stuff, like these rim protectors, a great item. When was the last time you changed these on your bike? Your rim locks. They get rusty. They get dried out. They break just like anything else also. Really cool rim strips. I love how these look. They're not rubber. They stick right to the rim. You custom cut them. Motion Pro. Got some really great prizes there. Really great supplies there and a lot of cool stuff. That's motionpro.com. Let's get to the questions. Fred Hudgens. Boy, he had a lot on his mind this week. And number one, what made you and Sue decide to do the show like this? How long have you been refurbishing aluminum tanks? What year was the make and model of your first tank? Let's take this in reverse. The first tank I remember taking a dent out of was a 1979 Honda CR250. I bought a bike. It had a big dent in it from the triple clamp failing and coming around. I reached inside from the gas spout and I was able to pry it out. How good it came out, I don't know. But I do remember that I pried it out enough to put body filler on it and I was able to sand it. I got a little experience back in 1987 or 88. I was buying and selling Corvettes on my own from my house. Great time in my life. Anyway, I got involved with a body shop for 2 weeks where I worked there on one of my cars that I had a partner on who was involved in the body shop. So I spent some time in the body shop. I learned how to sand. I learned how to smooth out, body filler a bit. And I thought I had an ability to do that. So I did, and it worked out fine. Now, the 1974 tanks, and your question is, what was the year, make, and model of the first tank? That was 79. How long have you been refurbishing tanks? Since about 2004. So that first job on the 79 was early in 2000, 2001, 2002. By 2004, I was restoring a CR250 for somebody, and I didn't have any way to fix a minor dent in the tank. I cut a U-shape in there. I pried, I tapped, I sanded, and I did the best I could, and that's how I got started doing that. Little by little, I began to do it more. Not a lot, but I do remember that when I moved to California in 2009, I wasn't sure how quick it would take me to set up my house, my shop, and it was a lot going on. I mailed 4 tanks to myself in California at an address. Actually, I mailed them to Brad Lackey's house. I didn't even have an address here yet. I mailed them to Brad's house, and I had 4 tanks ready to go. So I was in full swing with the tanks by 2009. By 2011, 12, while I was here, we've been doing tanks ever since, and I've done hundreds of them since then. And I've got a lot of them behind me, and there's always more coming in. Your first question was very interesting. What made you and Sue decide to do a show like this? This is what happened. In fact, it was 10 years ago today. Somebody said, do you want to make a possible reality show? I said, yeah. What do you want to call it? We sat down and decided to call it American Motocross Restoration. And I had to make a pilot. So I called a few of my friends, Brad Lackey, Marty Smith, Tommy Croft, Donnie Cantalupi, Rodney Smith, Chuck Son, and a few others. We all got together. Donnie Hansen was involved in that as well. And we all got together and I made this pilot. Now, the person who was the producer had never produced anything before. He had some money and he did what he could and he gave it to the director, and that was that. And when the money ran out, because the producer didn't really have any experience or was not real savvy at raising the money that he needed to make the show, the producer, director disappeared with the money, and that was that. Now, there was still some communication, but stuff got real. It wasn't good, okay? Number one, I didn't want to do a show for I didn't want to do a reality show, but I wanted to stay in the mix and keep my on camera time sharp. That's why I started doing this show. That happened in 2017. 2019, a young man calls me out of nowhere. His name is Jordan Woodworth. I think you got a nice show there, but you could use my help. I have a camera and I have some experience. Jordan came down to my garage. He set up lights. We got a microphone. He made graphics, and he made a lot of what you see here, and we got sponsors. And that's why we're here. And American Motocross Restoration, it's got dust on it about an inch thick, and it is unlikely that will ever come to pass in my lifetime. And that's how we wound up doing the show. And I think we do a pretty damn good job. Suze, what do you say?
I agree 100%.
Not so bad, right?
Yeah.
We've done pretty good so far, and thank you, the viewers at home and the sponsors.
Jordan was a blessing.
Jordan really and truly was a blessing. So.
He would come all the way from Oakland every week. He'd take the bar,
Right.
train, and
Yeah.
he was a blessing.
And I'm going to say this. I was on a Skype chat thing today with Terry Good and a couple of other people, Mike Secor being one of them. And we're getting closer on the International Motocross Museum project coming together. If there was ever a place to do a show about vintage motocross restoration and the history of the sport, it would be the International Motocross Museum. Short of that, I will never do a show for a reality television show, and I'm not going to put something together that is shoddy that the people can see through. Excuse me for rambling on, but I got to get it off my chest right now. Do you remember, and he's a great guy, Ken Kaplan. Do you remember when Ken Kaplan put a show on Discovery? And I forgot the name of it. It was
Captain something.
no, it wasn't Kaplan America. Maybe it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was.
Anyway, I like Ken Kaplan. I was there the day he opened his museum in Connecticut. People can see through that. When you're not giving them quality programming and how you really restore something, because you're going to have people that are really involved in the hobby watching, they can see through that. Ken did as good a job as he could, but the show didn't get picked up, and it just didn't have the depth that you need to do a show like that. I have what it takes to do that show. I have the place to do it. In fact, everything you see on this show, Vintage Motocross Q&A, all my ideas were put into American Motocross Restoration. Next time, try this. What's it worth? Interviews, all of that. My idea, American Motocross Restoration, never came to pass. Okay, let's move on. This is a cute question. This I really like. Hello, Joe. Can you talk to some people that you know to see if they can get Peacock to do a better job of filming the races? We're all tired of the nosebleed seat filming. I bet you might know some people in the industry. Thank you, Fred Forbeck. Fred, contrary to popular belief, my reach does not go that far. Okay. I do know some people. I do know Jason Wygant, who works over there on the show, and Jim Holly, a very good friend of mine. But I am just a little guy behind the curtain who has a lot of good advice, but does not control all the smoke in the mirrors and the camera angles at Peacock.
So you're not Wizard of Oz?
So no, I am not.
Oh.
That segment is brought to you by Motion Pro. Don't forget, they're still giving you 20% off at Motion Pro. It's been going on for like 40 years now. When you check out, type in MP, 40 years.
Robert Curay, where does he say? Yeah, Sean Connery said he'd never do Bond again, too.
Sean Connery said he'd never do Bond again?
Way to go, Robert.
What is he prepared to do? Anyway, that was pretty good, right? Motion Pro, 20% off, MP9135. That's Motion Pro. They've got tools. They got all sorts of good stuff. We are going to take another break right now. We'll be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. Got some more cool stuff coming up that I promised you, and I will be delivering.
I'm Ron Lachine, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to get over to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. All of your purchases, anything you donate, is completely tax deductible, and it is going toward the opening that we hope to see in 2025 of the International Motocross Museum. If you haven't seen it on Facebook yet, here is the floor plan for the International Motocross Museum. Over 100,000 square feet. There's going to be special coffee shops sponsored by KTM and Yamaha. There's going to be a gift shop. There's going to be a display for just Roger DeCuster's items alone. It totals over 10,000 square feet. I was talking 10,000 square feet for just Roger stuff.
Right.
Okay. The other day, you may have noticed that Terry Good put up a picture of a cylinder from one of Roger DeCosta's bikes, one of his works bikes, one of his experimental cylinders. And it was very, very unusual. Had the reed valve going vertically instead of horizontally. I was talking to Terry about that. And of course, Roger being a 5-time world champion, 5-year different bikes, plus there were some years he wasn't a world champion. I asked Terry, I said, well, for each bike you have that belonged to Roger, you must have what? 3, 4, probably 5 cylinders for each one. You must have I don't know, Terry, what, 50 cylinders? He has 250 cylinders just from Roger. Endless forks. You can't imagine what this display is going to look like, and it's be coming to you in 2025 sometime. Al Roof, your event is coming up. Here it is, White Lightning in Buffalo, South Carolina, March 7th through the 9th. It's coming up in just a week. I got a message from Al today. I'm sorry that I couldn't get it on. He's got special awards made for people that are going to enter his event. They're jugs. They're actually old-fashioned brown jugs with a beautiful label on it that presents or represents the event coming up. There's always something going on down there with Al and the boys from South Carolina, and this event draws them in every year. Okay, make sure you get down there. The Moto Showcase tonight is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Be sure to visit them online at PrestonPettyProducts.com. They've got the new mini mutters, and they've got all the other great things that you've come to see over the years. Now, this is the bike that we're going to have on in the Moto Showcase tonight. We did something a little bit different. Tim Boone is the owner of this bike, and I was fortunate enough to have him here on Saturday. He bought some parts from me, and he brought the bike with him. So while he was here, I seized the moment, and we made a little bit of a video. It's a little Blair Witch Project shaky, but you're gonna see it right here.
Blair Witch Project.
My name's Tim Boone, and this is my Champion framed XL350.
You know, Tim Boone, I don't get too many opportunities to have bikes here. Thanks for bringing it down.
No problem, my pleasure.
A Champion frame, I mean, this thing is absolutely magical. Why don't you just, and then we'll walk around, get a little closer, and maybe talk about some of the details. So, where'd the bike come from? How did you find it?
I found it at a bike show over in Valley. Okay. It was just, and I just gravitated towards this. And the gentleman, I keep forgetting his name. I'm very bad with names. But we must have caught a million times because I grew up in Fremont. We lived Fremont, right, and this is where it was. And yeah, I would like to give them. I have 4, and this is the one I wanted.
I remember seeing this bike, and it was in the show that day.
Yes.
And this one, and caught my eye. I never thought after the show I'd ever get a chance to see it again. And then you and I with Facebook and buying and selling parts together and whatnot. Well, you decided you want to bring it over, and I was not going to say no. What's the engine?
It's a 424 stroke. Mm-hmm. It's a stroke crank. It's got power. Funny thing is, you would think it's all XL350 motors, but he is very good about knowing what side cases will work better on it.
Right.
So he'll do an XL175, or he has 4. Well, he has 3 left. This was one of the 4 that he had that I. This is favorite. He has 2 more Champion frames, XL 480, another 14. He has a CA 350 for 14.
What's the kit that's in that engine?
There's a company called Roll.
Oh, what?
It was. There's a company still making stroker kits that are out of Florida. You can still ignition in it. It's not a Honda ignition. So you can still get those trick ignitions for. And it's just from the
That's long.
carburetor, but it does have a hand intake on it. That's
Yeah.
why it's
Anybody
made.
complaining? Anybody complaining?
No, but you should.
I'm having a little difficulty with a connection here for the video. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to post it separate on the page. I'll do it right after the show so you can get a good look at Tim Boone's bike. I apologize for the connection. I'm not really sure what's wrong. It is not in the video. It is in the Wi-Fi setup that we have right here. Okay. I'll be back a little bit later after the show. I'll post it directly and we'll hear more about Tim Boone and that beautiful champion frame, the Honda. In the meantime, I'll remind you that the CZ race is coming up April 25th through the 27th. That is at MMX in Marysville, California. Thank you, Larry Winter and Sirius Studio. Got some beautiful off-track gear happening over there. Let people know you're into moto, but do it subtly with your Sirius Studio gear. Thank you, RacerX, FastGuysStuff.com, and Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. Thank you guys all for supporting the show. Now, did you know? This is a segment brought to you by Jeff Kokoski. And did you know about bearings? I'm sure you know about bearings. You had plenty of bearings going on in your life, but did you know about the SKF bearing? Bearings, they're mechanical components designed to reduce friction between moving parts, allowing them to rotate safely and freely. If you've ever had to replace wheel bearings, main bearings, or any other bearings or seals on your vintage bike, chances are you've run across SKF bearings before. But did you know how SKF bearings came about? Our story begins with Sven Vinkvist, born December 10th, 1876, near the town of Örebro, west of Stockholm, in the southern portion of Sweden. Vinkvist would go on to earn a technical engineering degree, and by 1899, while he was in his early 20s, he was employed as an operating engineer at the Hudgens textile industry in Göteborg, which we call Gothenburg, on the southwest coast of Sweden, across from Denmark. Although steel roller bearings were not new, the original design patent actually goes back to 1794. Vinkvist noticed that there were frequent breakdowns at the textile mill related to bearing failures of the large equipment and drive shafts that were used in the mill. Vinkvist found that the factory was built on clay and that the shaft bearing supports occasionally moved fractions of millimeters, hardly measurable, but enough to induce enormous forces into the relatively stiff bearings used at the time, leading to failures. Vinkvist would spend about a half a dozen years doing research on different bearing designs, eventually convincing the management at the Glamstadens mill to set up a workshop inside the factory where he could actually experiment with various bearings, applications, and materials of construction. By 1906, Vinkvist received the Swedish patent for a single-row self-aligning ball bearing. Although his bearings was poor in offsetting axial loads, Vinkvist was on to something. By 1907, they had a breakthrough and developed then a double-row self-aligned ball bearing. The inside and the outer ring had a spherical raceway that was shared by two rows and radial-shaped balls. This allowed the inner ring to align freely in the relation to the outer ring, with no negative impact at all on the functioning of the bearing. The new bearing would solve the problem associated with the misalignment. Now, the same year, textile management of the mill recognized the importance of Vinkvist's invention, and they decided to start a subsidiary company called and market the bearings, calling it Svenska Kullaga Fabriken, which translate literally to Swedish Bearing Factory. Vinkvist also appointed managing director there, which was Axel Carlander, son of one of the founders of Jamlestadens Textile, was SKF's first CEO. The company immediately began to apply for 10 patents in that country, and by 1910, the company had 325 employees. By 1917, a research engineer named Arvid Palmgren, I think this is Arvid right here, Arvid Palmgren took Vinkvist's double-row ball bearing one step further and developed the patented two-row bearing using barrel-shaped spherical rollers instead of a traditional roller bearing. Okay? Now, this allowed the bearing to take a very heavy radial and axial load, sort of like what you see right here. It was ideal for machinery and automotive applications. By the mid-20s, SKF had intended to create a new series of bearing called Volvo, which means I roll in Latin. Instead, SKF started a new automobile company. Yes, SKF started Volvo, which was eventually spun off into its own entity by 1935. Today, SKF is the world's largest bearing manufacturer with 44,000 people employing it in 108 manufacturing units throughout the globe. It's the largest industrial distributor network in the industry with 17,000 distributors in 130 locations throughout the world. And yeah, when you think about it, I mean, look at these bearings. There's so many different things that get applied to bearings, whether it's bicycles and all sorts of machinery today that, I mean, I wouldn't say we take it for granted, but there's certainly so many different bearings and so many different cage bearings and rollers and different bushings that things ride on, and on your grinders, on your buffers, and so many tools and so many of the things that we use. So I want to thank Jeff Kokoski and Jeff, for putting that segment together. Now, as I promised you a little bit earlier, we do have a new content contributor. It is Roger Neff from Brap Suspension. I say it like that because when he makes a video, he says Brap Suspension. Anyway, we've got a video, and we're going to be showing different videos every week from Roger Neff and Brap Suspension. Let's take a look at the first one. I loved it. I think you're going to like it too. Here we go. Roger, what do we got?
Hey, Brappers, how you guys doing? We're out here in the Brap Shop. Today we're going to answer a question from Joe Abate's Vintage Motocross Q&A. The question is, when should you hard anodize, like on this sweet Elsinore 250, or when should you Cerakote, like on this 96 CR250? Let's get into it. So these vintage forks, been around since the 70s, a lot of wear on them. When we hard anodize that fork, a couple things happens. One, it creates a more slippery surface, so we have less friction in the fork, which is key for suspension. Two, the fork is going to stay cleaner longer because it's hard anodized. When the fork is going up and down and you have that bare aluminum in there, the fork oil will get dirty very quickly. So hard anodizing looks good, is super durable, and really helps with friction. Now we can hard anodize these 96 CR250 forks as well, but this has been Cerakoted. Cerakote is a very nice thin layer, a very durable layer, and works very well. The insides of those forks, the anodizing was very nice, was not worn through, and so there's really no reason to spend the additional cost to have the forks hard anodized. Same with shocks. Here's the 96 CR250 shock that goes with those forks. Again, looks nice, and the inside of that shock body was in great shape. Here's a 95 CR250 shock that I'm working on, and this one needs hard anodized. Number one, I can't get this shock body. I cannot buy a new one. And number two, we have anodizing that's worn through on the inside. Now what's key is when the anodize wears through and we continue to use the shock, it will actually scoop out where that anodizing is been worn through. And so it'll create a spot where oil will flow around your piston in the shock instead of through the piston. So your dampening performance will be very poor. In some cases, I've seen a rebuilt shock that is very worn, has no rebound. The rebound won't even work. It has little compression and no rebound because the oil is going around the shock piston. So a couple different scenarios here and different reasons when you should Cerakote versus when you should hard anodize. And hard anodize, you can do that in various colors. Black always works best. Because these old cast aluminum forks, you just really don't know how it's going to anodize with different colors. And before we hard anodize those forks, they were put in a lathe. They were smooth and cleaned up, so we got rid of some of the roost marks and so forth. So when they're done, they end up looking really sharp. and they're going to work good. And he can go a couple seasons on those forks and not worry about the oil getting contaminated super fast. So that's it, folks. When to Cerakote and when to hard anodize. Both are great products, but they have different purposes and different uses. And let's take a look at this CR while we're here and we're talking about vintage bikes. This guy's super intelligent. He didn't bring the seat and he didn't bring the chain because he knew I might ride it. Look at that. It's a nice KLP Racing swing arm, super trick motor. Can't wait to ride this thing. Hopefully he'll give me a little spin on it. Keep it brappy, folks.
Keep it brappy, folks. Roger, you did an absolutely fantastic job. The audio, the video, the sound, and the content itself. I want to thank you so much. Now, if you want to see Brap Suspension, Roger Neff is over. He's on Facebook, okay? But if you want to see some of his videos and some other really cool stuff, he's got a great page on Instagram. That's actually where I found him. I was just over there cruising around Instagram. I said, this would be really great. I saw some vintage bikes there, and I thought I'd ask him to make a video for the show. He accommodated us, and he's already sent me a couple of videos for the next show. Susie.
Yeah.
What is the dog doing on the show already?
Gino has the winner.
All right. Who?
Gino was the winner. Gino says it's John McNulty.
John McNulty, you are the winner of the Viewer Appreciation Prize.
That's right, and it's this awesome Maglite telescopic. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's that and
more.
It's it's all that and more, and we're gonna give you that, and we're gonna give you some a koozie, a mouse pad, and some other great stuff. All compliments of Russell Waters and Emsoil. Okay, John McNulty. Don't forget to get me your address. And Kim Ketchum, if you have an address and you live inside of a house, and Jeff Bailey, you too. Get me your addresses, guys. I owe you some prizes from the show, and I want to see you have them, okay? Right now, we are going to hear from our sponsor, Paul Parkinson Sr. Paul Parkinson Sr. We'll take a look at the commercial, then we'll be back, and I'll tell you about a couple of great products that he has. Then we'll wrap it up from Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. It carries the #1 plate in the US. Let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then on this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike and that stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else. Reliability.
All right, there you have it. Paul Parkinson Sr. ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Great sponsor of the show, always coming out with some really great stuff. And just to show you what's happening there, how about this? You Kawasaki's guys know what that is. That's a countershaft sprocket cover for 1974 75 KX250, definitely for a 400. I don't know if 250 has one on here. When I went to restore a bike, I couldn't find one for the love of money. But you know who makes it? Paul Parkinson Sr., ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. What else is a hard part to find? The pickle. Oh, baby, have you seen my pickle? No, I haven't, because nobody makes them anymore. And Paul Parkinson Sr. makes them over there at ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. This week, yeah, I'm just a man of many talents. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand now or also available online. 1975, the second AMA Supercross Series began in Texas Stadium outside of Dallas, and the 250cc winner was Can-Am rider Jimmy Ellis, who topped Honda's Marty Smith and Suzuki's Billy Grassi. The 500cc class was won by a Mako rider, Steve Stackable, a native Texan. 1985, Mark Barnett scored his one and only professional victory aboard a Kawasaki when he went 2-2 to take the win at the Atlanta Supercross in its old venue, Fulton County Stadium. The Bomber had spent his entire career to that point aboard a Suzuki, and with the yellow brand, he claimed 3 AMA 125 National Motocross Championships, as well as a 1981 AMA Supercross title. Honda's Ron Lechien and Mark Barnett's Kawasaki teammate Jeff Ward finished second and third that evening. The Moto winners in Atlanta that night were Ron Lechien, who went 1-4, and Brock Glover, who went 10-1. Another good picture of a guy, It's of Mark Barnett. But we always think of him on Suzuki. Seldom do we think of Mark Barnett on Kawasaki. 1991, the realization hit that Team Honda's Ricky Johnson, suffering from an inability to grip with his left wrist and also losing feeling in the middle of the races, would have to retire from professional motocross. Johnson, who was first injured on his wrist in March 5th of 1989 at the Gatorback National in a practice collision, had scratched from the February 24th Atlanta Supercross, electing to stay back in California to have his wrist examined. With that, the record book closed on Johnson's brilliant career, 7 major titles, 28 AMA Supercross wins, all in all, at that time, a record, multiple motocross and Trophy des Nations wins, a Grand Prix MX win. His last race in the entry of the vault in Racer X is an 8th place in the 1991 San Diego Supercross. He was 26 years old when he retired. We see, unfortunately, a lot of accidents. Some of them end careers in the sport of motocross. Donnie Hansen comes to mind, of course, Danny Magoo Chandler. There have been others. But my word, could you fantasize about what the record books would look like if Ricky Johnson had not gotten injured on that day? I think they would look completely different. And there would be, I think it would be safe to say that, let me not say it because I'm going to get in trouble again by saying some names, and I shouldn't give my opinion on certain things. Vintage Motocross Q&A has sponsorship opportunities available. It is not as expensive as you think, and many of the people, in fact, all of the ones that are behind me, Motion Pro, Replica Motorcycle Parts.com, Full Circle Racing, and Inventco, and all the others, they're paying, they're having fun, they're seeing results. You should be able to do the same thing as well. There is another race coming up on March 9th, and I got to expand this, otherwise I won't be able to see it. If you don't mind. No, nobody could see it. I can see it now. The Finger Lake AMA Northwest Motion Pro Regional. Vintage Motocross, post-vintage, got cross-country that happens on March 9th, 2025. Entry fee is $45 for the first class, $30 for the second class. So get over to your ARMA Northwest Facebook page or their website, and you'll find out more about the Finger Lake race that is coming up there very, very soon. I promise you I will start that video again after the show is over. I'm tempted to try it now, but I'm not going to do it right now because it just didn't turn out so good, you know? I'm sorry, Tim Boone, but we'll run it and everybody will see your beautiful bike. I appreciate it so much. Don't forget, Preston Petty Products has a new product coming out. It's the Mini Mutter. They come in white, yellow, silver, and of course red. Thank you, Paul Stannard and Preston Petty Products. I know it's too early to keep talking about it, but I just want to confirm that I heard through the grapevine, Roger DeCoster says he will definitely be there for the Northern California Motocross Reunion that happens October 18th. There'll be a lot of other people there as well. You can expect some special giveaways. There's golf, there's a bike show, all sorts of stuff happening there at the De La Vega Reunion, and that happens in Santa Cruz in the beautiful fall season of Northern California. Susie, that wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank everybody who watched. John Rathjen was a winner. And don't forget to get me your address. People, John Rathjen.
Oh.
He's the winner of the Amsoil giveaway. Kim Ketchum, get me your address. I'll get it to Paul Stannard. You get yourself a fender. Jeff Bailey, you got some stickers coming.
I think we got his address.
Who, John Rathjen?
John McNulty.
Oh, John McNulty. What made me think it was Rathjen? I'm losing it.
He makes his own names up.
No, John Rathjen is really a guy. Gino, you want to come over here? Come on, Gene. Oh, okay. Good. Here it is. that's a wrap from Vintage Motocross Q&A. And we'll see you next time. And I'm going to post that video of Tim Boone's bike right now, as soon as the show ends. Thank you, Roger Neff. What a great job on BRAP suspension.
We'll be recording a show next week.
That's what I got to tell you, too. Susie's having surgery next Wednesday. So I will be recording a show with the one and only Kurt Flashbart. He is the editor. He is the owner of Trail Rider Magazine. He's got some great stories. He also races unlimited offshore boats, has a motorcycle collection of over 125 bikes, still races, a very fascinating and interesting person. He will be my guest next Wednesday, while Susie, I almost said will be in labor, but she will be in recovery.
I will be in labor.
All right. She will be in recovery next week. So that's a wrap from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.